Police. Baby died after parents applied alcohol to gums. A heartbreaking case occurred in West Virginia when a couple was arrested and charged with killing their 4-month-old daughter by rubbing alcohol on the child's gums to soothe her when she cried. Angel Talbert and James Smith welcomed their daughter in July 2024, but just 4 months later, in November, the child died under suspicious circumstances. According to court documents collected by Law and Crime, on the morning of November 16, 2024, Talbert stated that she woke up to use the bathroom and asked Smith to check on their child. Smith reported to police that the child was lying face down, unresponsive, and not breathing. He began CPR while Talbert called 911. The child was rushed to the hospital in emergency condition, but doctors could not save the baby. At that time, both parents told investigators that the child had no known health issues. They described their child as a healthy baby. However, investigators weren't entirely convinced by this statement. Detailed documents showed that the child's face was discolored, as if the baby had been lying face down for some time. An autopsy was requested, and questions began to arise. Was this a tragic sudden death, or was something else going on? When police searched the home, they described the living conditions as very poor. Deputies reported seeing cockroaches crawling throughout multiple rooms, and the house had no running water. Smith allegedly showed deputies a spigot where they would fill containers to bring into the kitchen and bathroom when needed. Investigators also noted seeing a smoking device and stated Smith admitted it was used to smoke THC. Several months later, in April 2025, a significant development emerged when the state medical examiner's office reported that ethanol, alcohol, had been found in the child's blood with a reading of 3.210. Doctors indicated this level of alcohol would be fatal to any child. Police reinterrogated the couple. Initially, both parents denied knowing how alcohol could have entered the child's body. But just days later, things changed. Investigators say Talbert came forward with a confession, telling detectives that the child's father had admitted to rubbing alcohol on the baby's gums to soothe her when she became fussy. According to police, Smith allegedly told investigators that both he and Talbert had rubbed alcohol on the baby's gums almost daily for about a month. Both parents were arrested and charged with first-degree murder, child neglect resulting in death, and conspiracy. To better understand this case, legal expert Florina Alt-Schiller shared her professional perspective. When asked whether using home remedies like rubbing alcohol on gums might be considered traditional across generations or even cultural, and how that might affect jury perception, Schiller answered that, while it could be argued that way, there is no reasonable justification for it, and it's not safe. In fact, it can be fatal. Reason and common sense dictate that outdated family therapies are not the appropriate thing to do, she said. Schiller emphasized the importance of assessing the amount of alcohol used on the child. There's a significant difference between using a small amount on a fingertip, although inappropriate in any case, but less likely to cause death, versus pouring alcohol into the child's mouth or rubbing alcohol on the gums multiple times a day, every day over an extended period. On the issue of proving first-degree murder when alcohol is the cause rather than a weapon, Schiller explained that while we cannot know exactly what's going on in someone's mind, we can apply common sense to determine their goal or purpose. When a person chooses to argue about this lack of intent, it won't lead to complete exoneration. It will likely lead to a manslaughter conviction if it succeeds in exonerating. Regarding possible punishments, Schiller predicted both parents would face double-digit prison time, possibly around 10 to 20 years if convicted. She noted that in a case like this, it's entirely possible for one of the parents to take a plea deal. Concerning the couple's differing accounts, with Talbert initially claiming she only learned about Smith's use of alcohol on their child after the police interview. While Smith said both knew about it, Schiller explained this would be an issue for the jury to decide based on testimonies and evidence. Schiller emphasized the importance of testimony from experts about the toxicity of alcohol to infants in this case. That will be necessary to establish cause of death and to establish liability here for those parents, she explained. Without expert testimony to establish why this child died, there can't be a criminal case. Experts will need to testify about the ethanol level, concentration, and offer opinions about when the ethanol was introduced to the child's body. This could help eliminate any potential defense claiming someone else, such as a babysitter, might be responsible. The amount of alcohol in the system will really matter, Schiller said, because there could be an argument from these parents' attorneys that, oh, it was just a light touch from a fingertip. However, this wouldn't be true if toxicology results show the amount of alcohol in the child's system was clearly not just a light touch from a fingertip. When asked whether prosecutors could use the poor living conditions to strengthen allegations of neglect or abuse, Schiller responded that poor living conditions alone constitute a neglect and abuse case. However, she noted that these parents would be very, very lucky if all they faced was a conviction for neglect or abuse. Schiller explained the difference between child neglect, resulting in death, and involuntary manslaughter in legal terms. Child neglect is typically a misdemeanor that applies when a child doesn't die. What we're talking about is an infant who died, and so neglect may have led to that infant's death. But now we're not just talking about a simple child endangerment. We're talking about manslaughter. We're talking about murder. We're talking about very, very serious allegations. Regarding legal strategies the defense team might pursue, Schiller suggested arguing lack of intent is the best defense available under these circumstances. However, she also noted that while this might lead to acquittal on charges of intentional homicide, this will likely lead to a conviction for manslaughter. On whether this case will go to trial rather than end with a plea deal, Schiller believed this is a good case for taking a plea. It has a very high sympathy factor. We're talking about an infant who died. There is not a jury in the world that won't have sympathy, she explained. And if there's an offer to reduce to manslaughter, to significantly decrease the time they face in state prison, I don't see how that's not a good deal. Schiller also noted that with two parents, deals might be structured so that one testifies against the other, and in exchange for that testimony, they may receive a better deal. That's something that I often see, and it's just a race to the DA's office about who wants to point the finger at the other. The couple is currently being held in jail without bail. The case is still under investigation and ongoing. It highlights the tragic consequences that can occur when parents use unsafe and dangerous childcare methods based on misinformation or lack of knowledge. Ultimately, the death of this 4-month-old child is not only a tragedy, but also a reminder of the enormous responsibility that parenting demands and the serious consequences of not adhering to basic standards of child safety and care. As this case continues to unfold, it will shed more light on the circumstances leading to the child's death and the legal consequences the parents face.